Three, two, one. Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Adwicta.
This is Merps. Hope you guys had a good week. Lots of stuff to talk about, unlike last week, in which we had basically nothing to talk about. Announcements came, stuff is coming up, exciting things already happened.
You know
What do you
that
want to start
arena
off with?
rotation that should have happened last month? It's happening next week.
Yeah, I know. Well, they first said, it's going to come with patch 16.4, but 16.4 came and went. It didn't happen, so it's happening next week. But anyways, we are getting an arena rotation. What is a rotation?
An arena rotation moves, it takes away some sets from the arena, adds other sets. So my prediction was that we were going to get a standard rotation to end the year, and, it'll be interesting to see how standard arena would look like. Blizzard did not do that. I did also note the entire time that a standard rotation in arena right now with these sets was going to be terrible. So it's kind of sad that we don't get to see what a standard arena would look like. But also, I'm almost certain that whatever Blizzard did is going to be better in terms of just general enjoyability playing the arena. So the sets that are going to be in the next arena is the remaining sets are classic, basic sets, normal. Also, Descents of Dragon and Galakrond's Awakening are also both staying. As you may know, the Descent of Dragon's offering bonus was never removed, and Galakrond's Awakening cards did not have an offering bonus. We're gonna assume Blizzard's gonna be lazy, and that'll still be the case going forward. That's what the tier list assumes when you see it updated next week. So this is all gonna happen in a patch on Wednesday, they announced. So we'll have our post and everything up, and the tier list update at that point. But our assumptions are that all the offering odds remain the same. The three new sets that are coming in are GVG, Witchwood, and Saviors of Oldham. So the key set not coming back is Rise of Shadows. And that's a very, very key set because that's the one that set the whole tone for the entire year of the dragons, and it's the one with all the lackeys. So we're not going to be in lackey hell. There's going to be many pieces missing from the standard year, and those are all good things. That was not a good set for balance in the arena and for fun in the arena. I mean, neither was SOU Saviors of Oldham really, but we're getting that one back. Again, if you don't remember from way back, Saviors of Oldham was pulled after 2 months in the arena, so it only existed for one wild rotation. That is it. So it is so far the least played set in the entirety of Hearthstone, and so it's kind of good that that's coming back. But it's also a bad set. That's the one that Rap Golem is in. So if you're wondering, what are the cards that are coming back? Rap Golem is coming back, but what that does mean is that Eccentric Scribe is not coming back, and Hench Clan Hogsteed is not coming back. And the Hench Clan especially, that's the subtle little card that determines games that you don't even think about. But that's why we rate that in the same tier as all these other cards. And Rap Golem is going to come back a little tiny bit, a few points below the bosses of the arena right now. So it's not going to be Twin Tyrant, it's not going to be Evasive Worm, but it's right there, right? It's a few points below that. It's okay. So these are not final numbers. I'm not even going to give you the numbers because we haven't centered it, but it's going to end up being less than 10 points below Twin Tyrant, less than 5 points below Faceless Corruptor. So Evasive Worm, Twin Tyrant, and Faceless Corruptor, they're still the kings. Rap Golem is going to be somewhere in the mix there. And also Fel Reaver is going to be in the mix there, if you're wondering if there's anything in the older sets that are at that power level. Fel Reaver is, if you haven't played with the card, the 5 mana 8/8 that mills your own deck, which usually does nothing if you've been playing with Banshee or just know the history of the card. So it's essentially a 5 mana 8/8 that is kind of free most of the time. So it's pretty powerful. So that's the kind of impact that Twin Tyrant has on the game. So that's coming back. That's an epic card though, so you won't see it being offered as much as stuff like Twin Tyrant and Evasive Worm and Faceless Corruptor and Rap Golem. So that's the new stuff. I mean that's the new rotation. the cards you're worried about. It's 3 of the same cards, and then a Wrapped Golem, which is rare, so not going to see that too often, but still going to be in the meta, and Fel Reaver, which is an epic, so you're really not going to worry about it. Yeah. As for the sets that are leaving, I don't have a list with me about what sets are in the current meta, but like if it's not any of the sets we mentioned, it's not going to be here. So I know Rastakon's Rumble is going to be gone, and Blackwing,
Blackrock Mountain.
Blackrock Mountain is going to be gone, and those two had a number of key dragons in them that are leaving. So the first point that I want to make. The other one that's in the meta right now is tournament. What's that? The Grand Tournament. So those are the sets that are leaving. But the Inspire's leaving because it was such a meaningful mechanic in this meta. The big takeaway here, I'm gonna go through a number of takeaways, so you can know what's going to happen in the new meta. One thing we're not gonna do is we're not gonna tell you which classes are gonna be good and which classes are gonna be bad, because we can't. Because there's micro adjusts. Because based on the cards that are available, the classes that are good right now, like Priest, should not be that good. But Blizzard made it good.
Priests, look, Priests right now are the boogeymen in the arena. They're really good. Oppressively good, you could even say. But is it because suddenly they have really, really good cards? No, Priests have always had really good cards. They've had good cards since the beginning of Hearthstone. We're at a point in which micro adjusts are anything but micro, and Blizzard fully determines who is the king/queen of arena. They've decided Priest is going to be the king/queen of arena, so that's it.
And when we say Blizzard, they decided, I don't mean anyone at Blizzard knew this was going to happen. They just made buffs to classes that were weak, and then wherever the chips fell, it fell.
But yes, Blizzard is definitely the king maker. They, through whatever decisions they want to make, they will make certain classes that much better. And you can try to fight against it. Sometimes in certain metas, you can find a class or two to maybe, pick against the meta. But it's really hard because these micro adjusts have a huge impact. And if you are picking against what Blizzard is doing, your strategy better be super cohesive, super anti-meta. Otherwise, it's just not going to work because you are just going to be picking against what the game is like flooding you towards.
Yep.
So that's why we can't tell you what's going to be good.
Yeah. We can tell you, though, generally how classes are going to be able to play, because Blizzard doesn't change that too much because they're still working with the available cards that are in the pool, even if they can up or reduce their offering rates. And we also don't know if the offering rates are going to be reset or if they're going to keep the same like micro adjusts going into the next meta from the one that was from this meta, and we don't know when they're going to micro adjust again afterward. So all that's up in the air. And when I say all that is up in the air, I don't even just mean that we don't know. I'm not entirely sure Blizzard knows what their plan is, because they've done something different on very different timelines every single expansion. So hopefully they have a plan, but maybe they don't. They probably don't. There will be an announcement, though, next week or sometime soon after that kind of sets up the entire rest of the year. Because, all the hype that came from, Prodan, whomever, that had seen what was going to happen this year. We don't know, the public doesn't know any of that yet either. So that's all going to come too. And maybe that'll have big impacts on the arena. But for now, let's talk about the rotation. So the first thing you're going to notice very, very noticeably is that there's going to be fewer dragons. Because Blackrock Mountain is gone. Because Rastakon's Rumble is gone, and they had some decent some dragons in those. There were also some dragons in Karazhan, and Karazhan's gone. So that's a good amount of stuff leaving that had dragon. That's not to say you're not going to get some dragons back. The two meaningful dragon users, like dragon synergy cards that you're going to get back, one is Wormguard. Wormguard is this neutral 7-drop. And I think typically you don't see it get much play because it's not good. It's a neutral 7 mana 3/11 battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and taunt. So it's a 4/11 taunt for 7 mana if you have a dragon in your hand, which is not bad. That's a pretty decent card in the arena. Nothing super special, but it's one of those like large, nice taunts with 11 health. You just have to have a dragon in your hand, and that's not going to be as easy to get as it is right now. But that's coming back into the meta. And the other one coming back into the meta is Scale Worm, which is a 4 mana 4/4 that if you have a dragon in your hand, it becomes a 5/4 instead of a 4/4, and it gains rush. So it becomes a really good card if you have a dragon in your hand. So what you should know, like if you're wondering whether you should pick Wormguard or not, like we're going to have it rated somewhere around where like a deranged doctor is, like better than a war golem, but not by like too much. Just to give you some general ideas of where that's going to end up. And as for the worm, I'm trying to find it. I think that's going to be a bit higher. It's going to be, yep. That's going to be around where Senjin and Lost Hall Strider are, where Spellbreaker is. So it's going to be a much more draftable card. Generally around where a Yeti is. Because it has such a big impact if you can have the dragon.
I think one of the most important things, if you're frustrated right now with how the arena is operating, look, obviously, Twin Tyrant is in the current meta. It will be in the next rotation, so you're not going to be too happy about that. Evasive Worm is still going to be there as well. A lot of these powerful dragons, big ol' whelp, but you're probably going to be happy about the fact that Netherspite Historian is leaving. I think that's a big one, in which a lot of the shenanigans, the crazy dragon shenanigans that happen, a decent percentage of it is because of Netherspite Historian.
Yes.
And what it does is it
Fire
allows
Tree as well.
Yeah, Fire Tree, yeah, that definitely allowed people to get spells. But the most annoying thing is every class having easy access through Historian to every other class's dragons. Be it, just the good old neutral dragons like Twin Tyrant, or grabbing tons of Dragon Queen Alexstrasza's, right? Which is pretty crazy. Like, we historically never really talk about legendaries because you never really see them that much. Even game-changing ones, really powerful ones like Lich King, they sometimes ruined your run here or there. These days, every few games you're seeing a Dragon Queen Alexstrasza.
Yeah.
You just are. And those are the ones that you're seeing, right? There's going to be ones in which you probably don't even see, but is in their hand or is in your hand, but you just aren't able to play it or proc it. And it just goes to show how crazy it has gotten when a legendary, a singleton legendary, has popped up so often and decided so many games. A large part of that is due to Blizzard giving every single person the ability to easily discover dragons from any other class, or just getting all these legendary dragons.
Yeah.
So Twin Tyrant is still going to be here. You're going to get these dragons. Things will be a little bit better. They should be a little bit better in terms of if you just hate OP dragons being played against you, things will get a little bit better.
Yeah, and if you hate dragon synergies, they're going to get better too. Because you're going to see fewer dragons, which means the dragon synergies are going to be less consistent, which means everything goes down. Like, you'll just see widespread dragons losing points. Just to give you an idea, a fairy dragon is going to lose 6 points on our tier list. Just for the dragon tag not being as important. Because, and I'm going to list all the dragons that are leaving. We talked about Wormguard and Scale Worm coming online, right? The ones that are leaving, though, is Merp's focused on Netherspite and Fire Tree. And those are the big ones. Like, those are... if you look at our current tier list, I think those are like the top two drops in the meta right now in neutral. So that's why you have what you have.
Their condition in the current meta, it's not even a condition, really. You're going to have a dragon in your hand. So it's like, how good is a 2-mana 1/3 discover a dragon that works like 90% of the time? That's really freaking good. That's really, really freaking good.
Yep, you lose like one stat and you get to discover a really impactful card most of the
Yeah.
time. You're also losing Crowd Roaster, Technician. You're losing Blackwing Corruptor, which I know is really popular despite it not being as good as people think it is. Twilight Guardian and Bookworm. So less impactful cards, but still that's a lot, right? That's a lot of volume of things that get triggered off dragons in neutral that you're just no longer going to have access to. So that's why Fairy Dragon is down 6 points. You're going to see smaller movements when for the higher mana dragons because more of their value becomes in what they actually do than the fact that they are a dragon. But Scale Rider, for example, that's is going to be down 8 points. So not only are you seeing are dragons less useful because less things use the dragon tag, hence Fairy Dragon going down 6 points. Also, you will have fewer overall dragons in your hand and in your deck. So stuff that uses dragons like Scale Rider is also going down. Scale Rider was never like the best 3-drop. It was like close. It was up there, but it was never like the best. And now it's going to be like I think it's going to be pretty pedestrian. I'm gonna check this right now and see where it is. Yeah, it's right now tentatively we have it at like a 105. It hasn't been centered yet. That number is going to change, but it will always be around stuff like a Blackwall Pixie, which is basically just a 3-mana 3/4, or an Earthen Ring Farseer. Like, if you can imagine Scale Rider only being as good as an Earthen Ring Farseer, it feels a lot less swingy, right? Like, it feels a lot less impactful. So
yeah, right now it's a discounted Fire Plume Phoenix.
Yeah,
which is stupid. Yeah.
So that's the first point you'll notice. Dragons are going to be, we'll say, balanced. I feel like this is going to be a meta where dragons are going to be important. You're going to hit your dragon synergies, but they're going to be more balanced. And I mean dragons are balanced as in the dragon synergies are balanced, not Twin Tyrant, which would not be balanced no matter what tag you put on it, right? Okay, so dragons, number 1. Number 2, something you'll notice is mechs. They're not a thing right now. They're gonna be a thing because GVG is coming back. I don't really have to say much more about it, but Mech Warper, sorry. Mech Warper is the key engine to that. There's not gonna be that many mechs, but Mech Warper is around where Amani is right now on our tier list because, you know, it has that extra ability to get you the board, right? And on 2-drops, anything extra is useful. So Amani's a pretty good 2-drop. It's not like game winning or anything, and Mech Warper is sometimes game winning, usually not, and oftentimes does nothing. So that's how it balances out. So I would say mechs are kind of like dragons here, where the synergies that are associated with it are going to exist. You're going to see it. It's going to win you some games, lose you some games, but overall, it doesn't have a huge impact on the overall meta. It just has an impact. Okay. Now, setting aside like these synergy things. One of the key things about this current meta, not just Galakrond's Awakening, but also Descent of Dragons before that we've been in, and that's been unique for, God, it must be like 2 years since we had a meta similar to this, is the lack of taunts and heals in neutral that are in the meta. They just decided to take out all the sets that had large taunts and large heals, or like the vast majority of them. That is very unusual for Hearthstone over the years because a lot of the expansions have kind of ridiculous taunts associated with it. So the taunts that are coming back, so we're losing that like 214 taunt with Divine Shield or whatever it is, Enforcer, Mashag Enforcer, but that was never like a good taunt. You kind of played it as a desperation move. What we're getting back taunt wise is, so we're keeping we're keeping Evasive Draconid as a giant taunt. We're also getting back Etten, which is a pretty standard huge taunt. Furious Etten is a 7-mana 5/9 taunt. Pretty standard, large taunt. We're getting back Wormguard, we talked about before. If you have dragons, that's an 11 health taunt at 7 mana. That's pretty sizable. And these are all common cards, so you're gonna see them a lot. What we're also getting back, and you don't usually think of these as large taunts, but they could be very large taunts. They could be total game stoppers. So Witchwood is coming back. So Witchwood Grizzly, which is a rare card, but it is a 3/13 taunt for 5
Oh
mana.
God, it seems like forever.
Right? How long has it been since you've seen a
Jeez.
Grizzly?
Oh man, this is a blast from the. You might as well just be talking about a classic Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, yeah. No, it really does feel like forever. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And Witchwood Grizzly's downside, if you remember, is that you lose 1 health for each card in your opponent's hand. So it's like designed to stop aggro. Aggro dumps their hand, and then boom, you get a huge Grizzly on turn 5 that like stops whatever the hell aggro's trying to do. It is a very swingy card when facing aggro. So aggro's taking quite a few hits here. But even more than Grizzly, here's another card that's from the same set that really set that slow pace that Witchwood was known for, and every set containing Witchwood, really, because these 2 cards, and they were always under bucketed too back in the bucket system. Now they won't be under bucketed anymore, but they'll still have the impact. And the card I'm talking about is Phantom Militia. So Phantom Militia is going to be, it's always about as good as a Yeti, but it's a 3 mana 2/4 card, that a 2/4 taunt with Echo. So in the late game, you all of a sudden get 12 health of taunt split in 3 bodies for 9 mana. Otherwise, it's like a bad 3-drop. It does its job. It's not spectacular. It's also rare. I think in the bucket system, rares and commons were pretty much the same, and now there's more separation in the offering odds, so maybe we'll see it less often. It's also not like always under bucketed, so we won't see it as much as you're probably used to seeing this card. If you're here's another thing. I'm just gonna jump to the side point. Because Witchwood, and I think maybe like GVG for the most part at least, and Saviors of Oldham, have never been in a situation where there were no buckets in the past year. So you're probably used to evaluating these cards, like if you've been a arena player for the past year, you're probably used to evaluating these cards in the context of buckets and where these cards happen to be bucketed by Blizzard. So Militia, Phantom Militia, in my mind's always, oh, that's a really good card. Well, it's not a really good card. Not even before this year's what do you call it? Power creep that made all the old neutral cards seem like not very good cards. But it was really just because it was always under bucketed by like 2 buckets that made it consistently a pretty good card for you to pick, which means you saw them more often in the meta and then really warped the meta. Now, there's no more buckets, so you're going to pick it based on about how good it is. You're just going to see less of it. It's going to be less of a thing. And just don't overdraft the card. Like, really consult the tier list again. Because I think if you grew up with these cards in the era of buckets, a lot of your innate thinking, and I catch myself with this when I'm like looking at the new tier list scores, I'm like, oh really, it's really that low? Then I thought about it and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, it actually was always that low. It was just like bucketed even lower.
Right, but you might fall into, because it was, if not an auto pick,
Yeah.
a very frequent pick for you before, you might fall back into those habits and be
Yeah.
like, well, I always picked it back then, and you know, there had to have been something there, and there was, but that thing is not there anymore. So
yeah. So Phantom Militia is going to be another kind of like game stopper at like 9 mana or even 6 mana potentially against aggro. So the taunts are back. Aggro season, the pushing aggro season is a little bit over because of that. But I generally like taunts as a way to stop aggro because it's a little more interactive. It's a little less like all in kind of deals. Like when I say taunts, I mean just like something that taunts, not like here's the one that's coming back. I missed this one before, but it's like a big one. It's why am I not seeing this? Witchwood Grizzly. It's the 4/5 taunt that also heals. Rotten Apple Bomb. That's the other Witchwood one that comes up. Like, that's the annoying one, right? That's 5 mana, 4/5 taunt, death rattle, restore 4 health to your hero, right? It's stuff like this that's annoying. It's stuff like, and Primordial Drake is not coming back. I don't want to scare anyone. But it's stuff like that that's like a badly designed taunt because it swings a little too hard. But just the normal taunt I've always liked because it makes things really complicated on the board, really gets your skills out when you play it, when you save it. We had a talk about, we had a Deep Fried Meta last week about taunt usage. So it's all like, I like the fact that these taunts are coming back. The Rotten Apple Bomb is going to be a little annoying, especially because it's a common card, but it's appropriately statted at least. Like, it's not a great card at least, right? It's like Yeti level card. It's losing a lot of tempo in order to get that heal in. So, okay. So taunts are back. But don't let this whole, like, point, right? We're emphasizing taunts just because they weren't here before. It's not like there's going to be taunts everywhere. We're not going to be in a super taunt meta. In fact, I will bet that of any meta that Witchwood has been involved in, this is going to be the least taunty meta that's going to come in. But that's still way more taunty than the current meta. So
yeah, there's not really much taunts.
Yeah. Right now there's nothing. It's just like classic taunts.
It's classic taunts. It's just really annoying because of, like, there's a lot of swings, right?
Mhm.
So you can be really annoyed at that. And sadly, even in a meta without any taunts, aggro just doesn't really work.
Yeah. And there's also small taunts that are coming back. Noyotron's coming back. I don't even like want to bother with that because that's not like a great card, but it's a totally playable card. It's like Mad Bomber level, Loot Hoarder level, right? Like totally playable 2-drop, and it will stop a bunch of stuff too. So yeah, taunts are back. It's not an insane amount of taunts. It's a good amount of taunts. I think we'll all enjoy this amount of taunts in the meta. Now, that being said, aggro is super dead. And aggro is super dead, not just because of these taunts, but because on top of the taunts, and this is Witchwood's real problem, because on top of the taunts, Lifesteal is back. Remember, Witchwood was the expansion that formalized the term lifesteal. So, Rotten Apple Bomb is here, and all the lifesteal cards are back. They're gonna be, like, in weird places. They're not particularly great, but you're gonna see them enough times because, again, there's no more buckets. So sometimes you'll just pick the card because it's the best card, and it just happens to have lifesteal on it. And also bad about Witchwood. I'm gonna just say all the bad stuff about Witchwood because for all the stuff we remember that was bad about GBG, those of us who played this game 5 years ago, and for all the bad stuff about Saviors of Oldhim, those of us who remember Saviors of Oldhim in the 2 months that it was there, and you know the power levels of those cards, Witchwood was big picture wise, meta wise, problematic, and it set a tone that was very grindy and I think less fun for like most arena players. And one of the worst parts about it is not just the lifesteal and the taunts. It is Swift Messenger and Gilnean Royal Guard. So those are the cards that flip in your hand, right? 2/6, 6/2, 2/6, 6/2. They're both neutral. Gilnean is like 3/8 Divine Shield or 8/3 Divine Shield. So now in neutral, you have access to a 4-mana deal 6 damage Fireball, or I don't even remember how much Gilnean is.
It's either 3 attack or 8.
Right, but it's 8 mana.
Yeah.
So 8 mana deal 8 damage. And that is a very large amount of damage that other neutral cards just don't have access to. And it's also something you can't get a read for, because once you have a read for it, it may be at the 3 attack level that turn, right? So you don't have a read that he doesn't have that Gilnean Royal Guard, because it may just be on the wrong turn that you're making the read on. So these are expectation busters that are impossible to read for, very difficult to prepare for, and available to all classes. And they're pretty good. Gilnean Royal Guard, that they're all like above a Yeti levels. They're not like insanely good, but you'll see them enough times. Yeah. So that's the meta prep that I really want to leave you with on the neutral side. I think you have a good sense after this about what the meta is going to be like. I don't think it's going to be that bad. We'll see how far, because Witchwood is still only one set, right? There's only so many offering odds. We'll see how much healing and how slow the game becomes. But I think it can, especially compounded with all these cards, because remember what has never happened before Witchwood. You have never had unlimited card advantage in a set with Witchwood. And that's because you've never had Descent of Dragons with your Twin Tyrants, your evasive Draconids, your evasive Worms. So all the classes, and not to mention all the Explorers. So all the classes, but especially the Explorer classes, have like possibly endless card advantage. And if they didn't have endless card advantage and they were not a good class, they're going to be micro adjusted to have endless card advantage. See Shaman. And Priest. So if you combine endless card advantage with the ability to turtle up and a lot of both sets of that are in neutral, then you're going to have a whole meta that's very turtley, very card advantagey, very much based on what you can draft, rather than how you're playing it. And one of the most skill based parts of this meta is being able to push versus recognizing when you can compete for that card advantage. And so that's why I've never had that big of a problem with this meta. Like, I think people have been way harsher than this meta than I have when it comes to how much skill is impacting it. Because yes, the swings are huge, but the big picture meta is still pretty skill like decent for the skill. And I think we have the potential, depending on how micro adjusts work, depending on how it all pieces together, there is a decent chance that it's going to be a worse meta for skill. Because when you bring things back and you push things back to turn 20, that's all kind of how good your deck is. That's not even draw order, right? Like, you're even removing like luck within a game if you're pushing so that everyone's drawing most of their deck. Now you're at just like luck in the draft, and that's it. I'm not saying this will definitely happen. It's kind of hard to figure this out without knowing the micro adjust, without knowing where the offering odds are. Like, I think it'll be a lot better if they didn't have offering odds onto Descent of Dragons. If there's just no offering bonus whatsoever to anybody, I think that would create a better meta. And Blizzard may be doing that. I don't know. So just wanted to put that out there. So yeah, I mean, I think Blizzard was kind of screwed anyway if they wanted to keep Descent of Dragons in.
That's really what it comes down to. And if you look at Arena HS and people's response to this announcement about the rotation, the overwhelming or collective sigh that you hear is from people being like, "Are you kidding me? We have Descent of Dragons for another rotation." Because people are just tired of these OP dragons, and not just dragons, but this meta of overwhelming swing and card advantage. And if you make these things just redundant, right? If you just like overload people with it, people don't have a good time with it, because then it's like, well, what's resource management if I just easily get resources? If my opponent easily gets resources, it's exhausting, right? Because you try to take away their resources and then they just keep on getting it over and over and over again. So yeah, a lot of people are not happy about the fact that for the next rotation they still have to deal with this. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna try it out definitely, and we'll see what happens at the very beginning of the arena, and then what happens after they micro adjust, and then
if they micro adjust.
Yeah, they're gonna anoint a new class as the boogeyman. It might be shaman, it might be warlock. Who knows? Nobody knows. It could be hunter. Their micro adjusts are at such a point in which they could just give Hunter the best cards. You know, we've seen this before.
Hunters actually have the best cards though. Like in this set. Yeah. Like, this is like a really good set, like really good wild rotation for Hunter. So the aggro strategy is in a really bad place. But if you're talking mid-range Hunter, there is like Primordial Explorer is still in the game, right? Diving Griffin is still in the game. You're getting back Ramhakan Wild Tamer, if you guys remember that card. It's like a 3-mana 4/3 that just gives you another card in your hand. Desert Spear is back. That's a common and a weapon. Like, it's a ridiculous weapon and a common. Like, there's so many things. Like, you know, your current good Hunter cards in Descent of Dragons is here, but so are your good SOU cards, Saviors of Oldhim cards, and there are a lot of them. Swarm of Locusts, like there are so many good Hunter cards coming back. So they could, like, if they really, like, if people screw up with Hunter at the beginning and they do micro adjust, I wouldn't be surprised if mid-range Hunter is the best class.
Yeah, they tend to overcorrect, and then with Blizzard, balance has always been, okay, you're next up to be OP.
Yeah.
That's how it's been with every single one of their games. And it's fine. You know, not saying that that's wrong or anything, but that's what they have been doing with their balance. So we should expect more of the same. It's today it's priest, tomorrow it'll be another class that we all complain about. And their philosophy is as long as we keep rotating this, that'll be fine.
Yep. Before we exit the discussion on the arena rotation, and we'll come with more analysis after it hits the market. Yeah, on Wednesday. So in the next Lightforge, expect like a lot more arena analysis as we actually get our hands on it. But even before we get in there, I can tell you right off the bat, it's not going to be a control meta in the sense of board clears, because there will not be a lot of board clears. No class has a lot of board clears except Warlock, and that's mostly in its classic sets. Who are your normal board clear classes, right? Like Mage used to be a pretty big board clear class. Well, it doesn't have any board clears besides the ones that it has in Classic in this new set, in this new wild rotation. Literally nothing. Like, I guess Rolling Fireball could be considered a board clear, but it's an epic. Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron is 10 mana and an epic. Now, that doesn't mean it can't play aggro control because you have Arcane Amplifier. It could definitely still play in a control-y type way, but it won't be relying on board clears. Remember, there's a lot of heals, a lot of taunts in neutral in the meta. So every class can quote-unquote play control as just in play stally and slow and try to go for card advantage. But the board clears are not, there's not too many of them. What's another class that normally plays control? Priest, right? Priest is all about that control. Well, your Breath of the Infinite is still here, but there's fewer dragons, so that's still there. Holy Ripple's still there, but that only deals 1 damage to everything. Your big one, your Mass Hysteria, is gone, and you are getting Plague of Death, which is silence and destroys all minions, but that's an epic. And you're also getting, what's the other one? Light Bomb, but that's again an epic. So depending on how micro adjusts work, it's entirely possible that Priest can't do these board cleary type control things at all. And at best, it'll be able to do it not too frequently. So your super control priests are kind of a thing of the past. You'll still be on the control side because you're Priest, but you also have enough buffs in this meta that you can really see Tempo Priest becoming more of a thing than it used to be. Valence Chosen's coming back. Grave Rune is still existent. Right now, Priest is control Priest, right? But that's probably not going to be the case. Everybody's going to be on the board. You have so many taunts, right? Taunts stall, so everybody's going to be on the board. What else is a good board cleary control class? Shaman's oftentimes a good board cleary control class, and they are getting Earthquake back at 7 mana, which is basically deals 7 damage to everything. And that's pretty good. But that's it. So 1 rare card plus a Lightning Storm and Lightning Breath if you have a dragon. It doesn't quite make it enough to be a pure off the board kind of control class. So Warrior, let's skip Warlock because we were talking that Warlock might be able to do it with just classic cards because that's something Warlock's always been able to do. Warrior actually has the worst card ever invented for Warrior back, Warpath. But if you remember that one meta where they took away Dragon Roar and they took away some of the taunts and they just had Warpath and they had nothing else to support it, Control Warriors fell apart because being able to destroy the whole board does not get you anything without the card advantage and all the taunts and all the other stuff that it came with. So Dragon Roar is gone. There's no more Dragon Roar in Warrior. There's no more card draw in Warrior at all outside of your normal one, your classic one, Battle Rage, and that requires stuff on the board. So you're in this weird position as Warrior where, yes, you do have Warpath, which is the most ridiculous board clear card ever outside of Defile, but you don't really have a good plan that you can surround it. And Warpath, by the way, is a common. You'll be seeing it a lot, but it does very little for you if you are already on the board because it's a double-sided board clear, and you can't just stay off the board. It doesn't work. So you're gonna have to be creative with using that card. It's still a good card. You just don't take it, but just you can't like just turtle up. Or I mean, you can turtle up, but it'll revolve a lot of taunts and just letting the opponent keep hitting your taunts and then warpathing. You can't like just do nothing and then warpath and then try to get on the board. So yeah, Warlock's basically your only class that can potentially do an off the board kind of game, right? Just because Warlocks can always do it. They just have so many board clears in Classic, and it's Classic and Basic. It'll never go away. They get Plague of Flames back here, so that makes it even more potent. Plague of Flames is that 1 mana card that says destroy all your minions. For each one, destroy a random enemy minion. So you can just put a bunch of nothings on the board and like wipe the opponent's board. It's for 1 mana. It's pretty insane. So yeah, so if you're a fan of actual like off the board control, that's not going to work in this meta. I don't think Blizzard can micro adjust. I mean, of course they can micro adjust it in a way to make it work, but I think without ridiculous micro adjusts, it won't work for any class besides potentially Warlock. And yeah, but the turtling strategy of trying to get a lot of taunts, a lot of heals, a lot of card advantage, that could work for every class. So your control is going to look a lot more like turtling and then having like 1 or 2 board wipes rather than like having a lot of board wipes.
Okay.
Anything else I want to talk about? Silver Sword's back. Yeah, a cheap shot, pickpocket for Rogue. I know Rogues have been very underserved in the last couple metas, but some interesting stuff is coming back for Rogue. So I wanted to throw it out there. All right. So, what do you think about this upcoming rotation? How excited are you for it before we move on to BGs?
I really have to see how it goes because so much is in Blizzard's hands, like we talked about. I think it'll be interesting because once again, every single new rotation that happens is going to give us something a little bit brand new. Like, because we've never had DoD with anything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
With any of these new sets that are coming in, it'll be interesting to see the dynamic. It'll be interesting to see what Blizzard scopes for us, what they create for us through the offering rates, micro adjust, etc. But once again, as I've stated before, it just doesn't seem like they're putting that much work in.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like we're going to get timely micro adjusts that have lots of thought put into it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, my excitement is like a 3.
Yeah.
And that 3 comes purely from an experience I haven't had before. But I can't really get much more excited than that just because they're not putting that work in. So why should I be much more excited than a 3?
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm probably at like a 4, but for the same reasons. Like, and this is not to say like if Blizzard needs to change its whole thing with Arena, like they got rid of buckets and they didn't replace it with anything, and it was pretty clear pretty quickly that it's not an exciting experience, and so they need something to kind of jolt Arena back into relevance. And this is not it because this is nothing new. They're just kind of doing it because it's what's up next, right? Like their actual plan for the Arena will hopefully be revealed next week, and then we'll be able to be excited and judge that. But this itself is it a reason? Like if you haven't played Arena in a while, is it a reason to like roll up a couple runs? Yeah, like it's gonna be a new experience. It'll be interesting. Like especially the SOU cards, the Savers of Oldham cards. You have not played with those cards for that much. It was only around in the Arena meta for 2 months, so I'm definitely excited to play with some of those cards. Especially, there's some interesting cards in there that we just did not get to play that much with. Like, I remember Volpera Scoundrel. Like, I want to play more with it. It's a really good card. We rate it I mean, okay, nothing's like anywhere near a twin tyrant, but it's in the next tier, like below that, right? But like Quicksand Elemental, that's an interesting card. It's a little too powerful for a 2-drop, I think, but it's there. Nephroset Ritualist. I mean, these are not like I'm excited to play with them because they're interesting, not because I think they're healthy for the arena. Nothing released in the last year has been healthy for the arena, but there's excitement there. Yeah. So if like unfortunately they're releasing it on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday, so normally they release it on a Tuesday and get to play immediately, but they released it on a Wednesday, so I'm not going to be playing the arena until next Friday. All right. So that's the upcoming arena. We'll let you know what we think next week after we get some runs in. But definitely check it out. It'll at least shake things up. And if you don't like it, don't worry. The new expansion and therefore presumably a new rotation is going to come in like a month. So month and a half at longest. So you won't have to be here for long. And if you love it, well, you're not going to be here for long anyway. Okay. That's it for the arena. Let's move on. Let's move on to something that is already out. You can touch it, you can play it. It works pretty well. Battlegrounds.
Yeah, it works really well. So this week they came out with the highly anticipated Dragon update. I'm not going to go through everything that they introduced / took out because that would take a little bit too long. I want to immediately go into the most interesting part, which is the meta currently and how you can succeed in the meta. Because I've been playing a decent amount. It's a very fun patch. Unlike Arena, they're actually putting work into it. I can tell someone.
Okay, but it took them a long time to put the work in. Like this was since like mid-November, right? We were playing Battlegrounds, and this is like
it took a while for them to put this out, but they introduced tons and tons of units that were not that currently did not exist in the actual card game, right? These are BG exclusive units. And the more I play with them, the more I'm just like, wow, this has been play tested. They know what they're doing. This is like very, very interesting. Each unit was carefully crafted, manipulated. You can definitely appreciate that. So
it's almost like you can balance a game and provide a better gaming experience by making units specifically for the game rather than repurposing without adjustments units from a totally different game.
It's crazy. But I'll just talk a little bit about so characters were introduced, or heroes were introduced. Deathwing is, by a lot of people's standards, the new best hero, even over Tyrion. I know Collins believes that Deathwing over Tyrion right now by a tiny little bit. I can't really disagree with that. We also have some pretty good heroes like Nozdormu.
What does Nozdormu do? So, by the way, Deathwing, for those who don't know, Deathwing gives +3 to everything on the board always. So tokens get really powerful, Divine Shields get really powerful, Death Rattles get really powerful.
Yeah, Nozdormu's power is your first reroll every turn is free.
Oh, the free reroll guy. Okay.
So throughout a game, if you're going the distance, you're getting like 15 to 20 gold.
Yeah. Compare that to Bartendotron, right? That gets like 6 gold. Not even 6, 5 gold.
5 gold. Max. Max. Like, that's it. That's what you're getting. And with Nozdormu, in the first 5 turns, you've equaled Bartendotron. And his is actually a little bit more flexible because you can do all of these timings, right? In which you can level, roll, and buy something.
Yeah.
And that's like pretty good. So that's pretty good. Malygos is interesting. You can use his hero power. It costs nothing to target one minion, whether on your side of the board or on their side of the board, and turn it into another random minion from the same tier. It's fun.
It's really fun. You get to turn cats into like Murlocs.
Yeah, you can turn cats into Murlocs.
1/1 tokens become like stuff, and then like you always get a reroll of like your highest tier thing. Like even when it didn't do anything, it felt useful. Like it felt like it feels good to do.
It feels good, right? It's one of those characters that is very very fun, very very fun, and it's nice that they're introducing these sort of characters and taking out slash learning the mistakes of a character like Trade Prince Gallowix, right? In which
What did he
he
do?
does nothing. It's like
What was
he's
he
not even
supposed to
fun.
do?
Trade Prince Gallowix basically turns one of your current coins into a physical coin that you can use next turn.
Oh
So
my
you can
god.
bank. You can bank coin. Yeah. I mean, it's terrible. But all right. Anyways, like I said, I'm not going to talk about all the units. I'm not going to talk about all the heroes, but I do want to talk about meta and how to succeed in the meta because I have played a decent amount this week. When the patch dropped, I started off at a little bit higher than 9.1k, and then earlier today, I just got to 10k, hit that 10k
Did you get
mark.
in the top 200? That's like right above 10k. It's like 10. It's like 1070 or something like that. Last time I
No, I
checked.
had to leave. So I was when I checked because once I hit 10k, I checked where I was. I was less than 40 points
Yeah.
from the leaderboard. So one decent game, and I would have been in. But that's fine. So we can't say that this is the advice portion from a top 200 player, but this is the advice portion from a 10k player, which is still pretty good. You could definitely get advice from
You
a
can
worse
also get
person.
a vice like a worse player like me, and I'm at 8.1k, 8.2k. And I make very little of my own decisions. I literally just listen to Twitch chat, and then I do whatever the people I know who are good in Twitch chat, or just random people if those people aren't saying anything, and I do whatever they say. Uh, and I wait the 5 seconds whenever there's an important decision, and I ask questions and I wait for answers, and sometimes they come and sometimes they don't. Which is to say, before we get into the whole meta thing, they sped up the animations again. It's so noticeable. I, with my low APM and inability to think, feel like I have enough time to do things now. Like, this game is starting to feel playable to me. And keep in mind, I'm waiting like the 5 second delay between like when I broadcast my game and when Twitch chat can respond to me. I'm waiting those 5 seconds for every important decision I make. So I am able to do that on almost all the turns, which means that if I were able to think and have my own thoughts and be good at the game, I could also do that as well. Like, and this is from a very slow person too, using a even slower, artificially slow process by soliciting Twitch chat's advice. And then Twitch chat sometimes doesn't agree with each other, and then I'm like stuck sitting there being like, "Come on, guys, agree, figure out something, or else I'm gonna do one of your random suggestions." But that's I'm at 8k doing that, so that's pretty good. Also makes me very sad for people who are like at like 5k. I did play a 4k game because I didn't know what any of the dragons are or anything, and I didn't feel like losing the first time I played. So I felt like I wanted a warm up game, so I loaded up the Coop account and I played a 4K game, and I just did like nothing, just like dicked around. I think I spent most of my gold on every turn though, and I got first like so easily. Not even like I applied no strategy. I had no synergies on my board. I just like bought stuff, sold other stuff, like leveled when it seemed okay. I was not using an OP hero. I forgot what hero I was using. I don't even know if I used the hero's power.
You
Uh,
were AFK.
Oh, it was AFK, so I did use the hero's power. But that's why I don't remember if I used the power, because it didn't do anything after the third turn. And I didn't get anything good from AFK. Like, nothing was synergizing from AFK's first two bonus cards. So yeah, I don't know. I'm constantly impressed by Battlegrounds, like, ranking system. And, like, putting you where you kind of belong. In a relatively, like, okay, like, not a huge time commitment. Because I'm still climbing from 8,000, but I'm climbing very slowly. Like, I don't think I'll reach 9,000 by myself. Um, but 8,000 games feel great. And if I'm ever playing like a 6,000 game, for example, I would feel like the king. Like, that's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, it is very, very different. They make you feel the difference as well. And then once you are above um like 9.5, not so my climb from 9.1 to 9.7, I feel, was like really fast. And then from 9.7 to 10K, it's slow.
Mm.
And it only gets slower because the point um
Like, how much do you gain for like a
penalty.
win?
It still I can tell it still depends on who I'm facing,
Hmm.
right? Who's in the lobby.
But
But
you're
yeah,
much more likely to
right
be matched
now,
up with like way weaker players because you're like in
yeah,
a very
right
small
now
pool.
it like if I get a top 8, that is that hurts so much. That's like hours of progress kind of gone right there.
What? Why
Um
do people call it top eight? I'm always confused when people are like top eight, and I'm just like, what do you mean last place? Ah, it's not even a euphemism because they're like using it to say that like we're
People say it
losing,
ironically
but
because
it's not
in a lot of
ironic.
other instances, top 8 is like, oh, that's not bad. But here it's, oh,
Yeah,
top 8, last place, haha.
yeah.
But yeah, you
So like when you get
I
first, it's not like how many points do you get? Like on average, if you get like a first.
I'll get like I think the last one I got was around 80.
Okay, that's
So it
only
was
like
still
it's
good,
still
but once
good.
again, I was facing someone heads up
Hmm.
that I've seen pretty high up on the leaderboards.
Okay,
So I don't know if that matters or
I'm sure
I
it
like I,
matters.
yeah, I'm sure it matters, but I do know that um the most telling thing is on average now, if I get fourth place, I get like +4, +5, maybe.
Mm,
Like nothing, basically nothing.
hmm.
If I get fourth place, and this isn't like, me tying fourth. This is like if
Yeah.
I get a solid fourth place, it's like very negligible. I can't keep on getting fourths. Like I need to get firsts and seconds. And whenever I sort of, don't get lucky, I need to prevent the seventh and eighth places.
Yeah.
I can get a six and I can get a fifth, but if I can't get an eighth, like that just like cuts out so much progress.
Okay. Okay.
Anyways,
Before we get to the meta, one more comment just randomly I'm gonna throw out there. There's a huge disconnect for me between all dragons not named Deathwing and their ability. Because their abilities are like super freaking subtle. Like they're like zero mana abilities. They do like very subtle things each turn, and they're giant, mean-looking dragons. That's all I gotta say. I feel like the dragons should have abilities that are more like that Divine Shield guy, George. Like that's what I imagine like the dragon's abilities would be, right? Like either a Deathwing kind of ability that's just like screwing everything over, or like a really powerful late game ability, not like zero mana, find another random thing. Okay, that's it. I just wanted to get that in before you talk about the whole meta.
all right. So let me tell you guys how to succeed in this meta. Um, what you guys want to do right now? First, dragons are cool. They are the brand new thing. They're also kind of a trap right now. We're not at the stage anymore where the patch just dropped and literally everyone wanted to buy the dragons and get the dragons. But I would say dragons as a whole right now, in terms of power level on average, they're not that powerful. They're just like okay.
What about
They're,
that
they're
1/2 dragon that deals 1 damage to something and then deals 1 million damage to something?
That's definitely a trap. You're
Really?
talking about the red whelp.
Yeah, the red
Um,
whelp. I mean, it's not an end game unit, but I feel like it's
yeah,
pretty damn good for mid game.
it's definitely not an end game unit, and one of the problems is there's so much more random tokens and everything that is out. Um, its usefulness, even in the early mid game,
Mm-hmm.
is getting more and more tempered.
Wait, but what do you mean?
Um,
There's so many random tokens. It does it at the beginning of the game. Like, you mean they
yeah,
just
it
like
does
put
it.
tokens on the board?
Yeah, um, because of like the way that people are playing around Deathwing, because of just like the units that are left after the big switch up. So the red whelp, it's good, it's decent. I would take it sometimes. But if you're going all in on it or even committing a decent amount into it, just know that that's probably not the smartest commitment. Even if you know you're getting out of it,
Hmm.
you might have spent a little bit too much gold trying to
Build
beef
it,
that
yeah.
up for your mid game, even with the switch. Because what you want to do optimally is devote not that much resources into your current comp if you know you're going to switch. Like, you want to hold some things, or maybe you have like three minions that are of like usable after the switch into whatever it is, right? That you can use for a while. Red whelp comps typically can't do that. You're
Yeah.
going all in on that, and you have
Well,
all
there
these
is
small
that
dragons as well.
that 2/4 that buffs your whole tavern.
I mean, that thing is just like a placeholder.
Yeah, but
That
that's
thing
what I
is.
mean, right? Like you get
Mhm.
those in the early mid game, and then you switch off the red whelp.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where, yeah, like until then, you just have a 2/4 sitting there. So
Yeah.
it's one of those problems in which I will very very rarely. I actually don't go for red whelps in the beginning anymore. Like if it's
Like,
there,
what
I'll take it.
would you take a wolf over it?
No. Like turn one, I'll still take a red whelp
Okay, you just
over
won't
a
build
wolf.
on it.
I won't build on
Okay,
it. I will just forget about it.
okay.
It's one of those things where I think if you're
How
building
good
up
is
on it
red
at
whelp? Like
what
in the as the first pick, like just for the like very early thing. Like, would you take it take the Murloc over it, like the 2/3 Murloc?
yeah, I'm definitely taking the 2/3
Okay,
Murloc over it.
okay, but
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the
yeah.
wolf. Okay,
Not the
got
wolf.
it.
No, I'm taking it over the 1/2s, 2/1s, and the 2/2.
Okay, cool.
But the any 2/3, whether it's the Dragon 2/3 or the Murloc 2/3, I'm taking that every single time. Easy. And then of course, tokens are king. Like we always take tokens, right?
Yeah.
But the way that you want to be gaining that elo, you want to be winning these games, and the strategy I've been using, a general strategy, is you got to be fearless in tearing up, and especially
Mm-hmm.
in tearing up to 4 and 5. 5 is the
Mm-hmm.
crucial one. What you want to do, and we have timings, right? So we know that on turn two, 4 gold, you level up to 2 on
Mm-hmm.
7 gold, lots of times you buy something and you level up to 3, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then on 9, you can buy something else and level up to 4. Those are the standard timings. And I would say, so first of all, you can go even faster than that, a little bit. For example, like if you're getting really lucky with Rafam and you're just grabbing some really good minions, or if you manage to get a triple and then you like suddenly spiked in power, you can perhaps level a little bit faster. I would say this: that ramp I just talked about, leveling up to 4 by 9 gold, you have to have a really freaking good reason not to at least go that fast. So some people might feel as though they're like, oh man, I'm really underpowered right now. I just got beat by a little bit. Like I'm currently sitting in like fifth place. Um, I'm and right now I'm at like 7 gold, and I should be leveling and buying 1 unit. But what I really want to do is buy a unit, roll, buy another unit, and I'll level up next turn. Um, that is a huge potential misplay. You missing that opportunity to level up. And what happens is if you are behind, not only are you, behind in leveling up and tearing up, you get the leftovers from everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You are not picking at the same rate that everyone else is. They're
So,
choosing the best tier
what,
3,
what
tier 4 minions,
what are
and
the
tier
best
5
tier
as
4
well.
minions?
The best
Tier
tier 4
5 is the
minions,
place where you get like Goldred, Brand, all this stuff, right? But what in tier 4 am I looking for? Because I always struggle with that. I know Cobalt's the only thing worth getting on tier 3, but what's worth it on tier 4?
So I would say as well on tier 3, one of the better units is one that they just introduced, the 2/1 dragon that has divine shield and reborn.
Okay.
That's just naturally good. Like you can just naturally take it as well. That's good.
But what
On
is
tier
does that lead into anything, or is that just
It can lead to dragons. It can lead to menagerie. Menagerie is
hmm
a perfectly good build right now. And if you have menagerie, the 2/1 divine shield dragon
yeah,
is one of the best ones,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So that's always good. Or it could just be a decent minion. Like
right.
it's just like at minimum it's dealing 8 damage, right?
hmm
8 split damage. That's pretty freaking good for a just a
Tier three.
minion on tier
hmm
3 without any investment. So tier 4 is typically it's like the stepping stone to tier 5,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. But is
But
there anything in tier four I want besides like stuff that like are just like good by itself that I will get rid of eventually? I'm trying to
yeah,
think back.
definitely.
Like
So
the egg is something I would keep. The mech
the
egg.
egg is something you are going to keep. If you get a sensei early on, that's great.
Okay.
Like you're able to use that to scale a little bit. Security rover is still quite good, especially if you're getting it early on, right? Security rover, like I said, you're seeing a lot of small stuff in the mid game,
hmm
a lot of tokens. So security rover can just farm.
Okay.
Security rover
So it's
is
better
able to
now than it used to be.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a point in which Security Rover was like, just like meh.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
was like, I love Security Rover back in the day, but like in the last
mhm.
month, I've been like, yeah, it's hit or miss. And by hit, I mean
Yeah.
okay, and by miss, I mean like, ugh.
Security Rover right now is, I would say, pretty great, actually.
Okay.
It's pretty great. So that's one of those things. The new dragon, the new 3/6 dragon that gains +2/+2 every single time one of your Divine Shield pops, that thing is just really good. Not just dragons, but it's one of those
That's
minions
tier
in
four.
which yeah, that's tier 4. Mhm.
Interesting. Okay.
And you can put that into basically any comp as a
Yeah.
stopgap for a set, because a lot of comps just have divine shields, right?
Yeah.
And let's just say you have 2 divine shields. Suddenly, that thing is a 7/9.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
and that's pretty good in the mid game. But if you're mechs and you have double kobolds and all that stuff, and you're just looking for something to throw in, maybe not devote that much into it, but it's just like good, and perhaps you do keep it, perhaps you triple it, perhaps you buff it up. Um, it's really good as one of those like filler units, and potentially you replace it with like a faux reaper after you get to tier 6. But in the meantime, it's really, really good. Much better than what you will get with anything else on tier 4. So there's definitely stuff that's good. And of course, we have mainstays like, Cave Hydra, right?
hmm
Something that you can, uh, that can be one of the carries on your team. So tier
So
4
if I get a
is.
cave hydra and I have nothing else going on, like I just have normal temple-y kind of like minions, and I'm like
Mhm.
doing okay in health. It's not like I have 40, but I don't have like 20 or something like alarming. Do I just like take a cave hydra and then start trying to build it? Like if I get offered it, or do I? Because you kind of have to like devote some resources to getting a cave hydra, like do
Yeah, I
stuff.
would say what you want to try to do, and then of course it's different because I have to see your game
Yeah,
position and
yeah.
everything. But Menagerie is incredibly strong right now.
Okay.
So if you have like,
So it's
you know,
worth it because you might end up going like beasts or like death rattles or menagerie, and all of them will work with a cave hydra.
right, exactly. It's interesting that you mentioned Beast, because Beasts are really strong right now. I
Yeah.
would say that I would credit most of my elo gains and
hmm
MMR gains to beast comps. That has won me the most games. And part of it is due to my very aggressive tiering up, not just to tier 4, but in my games, I try to be the first person. Well, unless there's a Deathwing, I can't beat like the speed at which he tiers up. But I try to be the first non-Deathwing player to go to tier 5. And by
hmm
doing that, I get my pick of the litter, right?
hmm
And because of that as well, I'm typically the person grabbing the barons, grabbing the goldrins. and I'm able to leverage my health a tiny bit in order to get those, and then from there I snowball.
Yeah.
So beasts have always had an issue in which it's powerful but very expensive, very very expensive. But one of the beautiful things about beasts is it's not a buff build. Like you're not trying to buff things. With dragons, you're getting a Caligos and you're buffing things. With Murlocs, you're still buffing things. It just comes in spurts, right? It comes in huge spurts. With beasts, you are actually not really buffing things. You're looking for pieces. You're looking for the Goldrinn. You're looking for the Baron. If you get Mama Bear, it's not even a lot of the times part of your final comp. Mama Bear, a lot of times you just use it for a few buffs and then you kind of just get rid of her, and because you're going for the Goldrinn Baron comp. So that's just really good. Like beasts are one of those comps that you'll naturally fall into a lot of times if you're playing correctly and tiering up. Because you're going to be able to pick those first, and it's once you're there, that's so efficient for your gold because you don't have to keep on buying buffs. All you have to do. But what you want to do is just, okay, let's buy the necessary beasts, buy the Goldrins, buy the Barons, and then that's it. So it's a very efficient use of your gold after that.
Okay.
So that's basically it. Like the main question you want to ask yourself, if you are trying to go against the typical tiering speed, right? So 4 gold, 7 gold, 9 gold. You have to have a really good reason, like really, really good reason. You can't just be scared. If you're somewhat scared and be like, I don't know if I'm strong enough, you're definitely going to be a lot weaker if you don't do that. And then for tier 5, I would say the general rule is this. As soon as you go to tier 4, on the very next turn, unless you are dying and unless you know it's like, okay, well, I can get a lot stronger in tier 4 if I just get these few pieces, and that would propel me for like the next 2 turns. Unless you feel that way, or unless you're, actually just dying, like, have 10 health left and you got to get stronger. I would say tier up to 5. Like it's that sort of meta in which if you don't have a clear reason to stay at your tier and buy something, you go to the next tier.
But
tier 6 is something in which you don't have to go.
But Merps, that's scary.
You know what's really scary? Losing hours and hours of MMR game because you top 8. And this is definitely something in which for a lot of games as well, right? It's like fear is something that is healthy in good doses, but once you sort of give in to that sort of fear, you're just like, oh man, I don't want to be last place. Okay, good. Then you just significantly increase your chances of going 6. I am trying to like increase my chances of going first or at least second. So if you see sort of and what's happening in high MMR lobbies as well, people know this. Like I'm not spouting something that people who are good at this game don't already know, but I take it to a higher level even. Like in the lobbies, there will be, and I check the timings as well. There are some people who will skip one of those timings and will not level to 5 as aggressively as I do. I can't see what they're doing, but on average, they are the people giving me their elo. Like just because I am getting to 5 first, and you will see a clear difference. If you are at 5 first, and if you just start noticing, it's like, oh, how good are my rolls? They're really good. They're really, really good because you're the first one there, and you get to pluck all of these nice things from that tier.
Okay. So the point of getting to 4 is not to buy anything at 4, because 4 sucks.
4 is okay. You can find some good stuff on 4, but this is exactly why I'm saying the turn after you go to 4 is
Hmm.
when you already ask the question, okay, is there something in front of me that I really want to buy? Or is there
Right.
something on tier 4/3 and 2, 1, or whatever that I can buy that really just jumps me a power level, right?
Right. So
Like
the
just
four
really
things that you've identified at least are all mech.
Mhm.
So if mechs aren't happening, do you just almost always tier up to tier 5? Because it sounds like you almost always tier up to tier 5 anyway. And all the good things you identified on tier 4 are mechs. And, I mean, obviously, if you have a triple, get a triple. But if, like, you're not going to take a tier 3 good minion on tier 4 instead of tiering up to tier 5 if you're not getting a triple out of it, right? Like,
Yeah, I would say that most of the time when I am in this position, like going into tier 4, I don't have a composition,
yeah.
right? Just on average,
Yeah.
you are very unlikely to have any sort of board that resembles a comp. What I'm
Hmm.
doing during that time is I'm just trying to get as strong as possible.
Yep.
So you just don't have any sort of direction, and because of that, yeah, you should just tier up. You should just tier up to 5, and then have 5 tell you what you're going to do.
Okay.
Um, it's basically, and it's also why Menagerie is pretty powerful, because if you're doing this when you're getting to 5, you kind of naturally build up a Menagerie comp.
Hmm. That
uh,
certainly
and
happened to
and
me like every time I got into 5.
Yeah, yeah. So it's part of why it is so freaking convenient, and also like more powerful now. So that is my uh, tip, my tried and true tip: level aggressively, and you have to have super good reason to not do the typical level timings up to 4. And right after 4, every single turn, ask yourself, do I have a really good reason for not going to 5? And if you don't have a really good reason, or if you don't have like, just a beautiful display of amazing minions in front of you that you kind of like have to buy, then level up to 5. Level up to 5, take that potential hit, live a little bit dangerously, but on average, you are going to gain a lot of MMR, just like I did this week.
Or you can just like be super lucky, like get to 5 with like nothing going on, and then immediately in one turn see Baron, Goldrin, and a Cave Hydra, and then in the next turn get another Cave Hydra and another Goldrin, and then you're pretty set. Like that's a pretty good start for getting to turn 5 with nothing. That's that you do pretty well after that.
Yep. All
Okay,
right.
so I have a question about what if you get something good? Like, what if you don't get to, but like you're on 3, you're just doing your normal thing, and you see a soul juggler and you got 2 demons, or you see a wolfman and you got like that like a rat and like like a hyena, like
Oh,
just
pack leader?
yeah,
Yeah,
wolfman. Um,
sure.
like and you have like a comp, like not one that's gonna survive to the end game, but you have like what resembles a decent mid game comp. Do you still just go to 5 and kind of like chuck it, or do you try to like build on it?
I still go to 5 because no matter what comp you have, there's going to be good stuff
Okay.
on 5. Like with the exception of mechs, kind of and then you can stay on 4
Or
for a
yeah.
little bit if you want, but then you still want that faux reaper at the end. And also, guys, don't be afraid to just go half and half. Uh, I've gone, comps with like mech dragons before, where I have 2 kobolds and a rover for
I
the
thought Mech
refreshes.
Dragon was like the standard.
I
Like,
don't,
I see
I don't
so
know if
many
that's the
Mech
stand.
Dragons. I thought that's what you were like. That's like the
But I've
go-to
had
build.
I've had like mechs and beasts at the same
Ah.
time with like Goldrin and um, the cave hydras. I've had just weird menageries that aren't exactly menageries.
Mm-hmm.
The important thing is once you see where you are in the game, and you know, like you getting up to 5 and you getting strong as well, you're just like beating people up and you are putting pressure on everyone else. I've talked about this before, but in Battlegrounds, this is something that you eventually learn how you as one person have such a huge effect on the rest of the lobby, even though you're just facing them one at a time. And once you recognize uh, how much power you have, how much power you have to influence everyone else, even when you're not facing them, that makes your decision to level up even more influential. So it's just one of those things where it's one of those deeper concepts in Battlegrounds that the sooner you figure it out, the better of a player you will become, and the more you'll be like Neo, you know, like seeing the ones and zeros in the game.
All right. Yeah, I mean, Battlegrounds is pretty fun right now. Yep, that's all I have to say about that. Battlegrounds is pretty fun. I'm waiting for the arena, but if you want to watch some of our Battlegrounds next week, we're supposed to be doing Battlegrounds on Monday. I'll be doing it on Tuesday, and I'll be doing some Battlegrounds after the arena group today too. I'm trying to get to 9,000. I feel like that's a good point. That's a good, nice stopping point to be like 1,000 below where like top 200 starts. That's my new goal. Top 200
That's your
seems
goal.
really tough.
You think you're gonna get there?
I think I'll get there, but I just don't play, right? I only play like on stream, and I play like half the time on stream. I play arena the other half, so I probably get like, I don't know, 10 Battleground runs a week, maybe 12. So it's just not enough to climb, especially when they keep changing the meta. When they change the meta, I'm good. Like in my first 8 runs after the meta changes, I'm happy to be even because I don't know what's going on. All right. Well, that's it for our podcast. Anything else you want to add?
No, this has gone on long enough.
Mm.
All right, let's end it here. Definitely go play some Battlegrounds, guys, as we wait for the next rotation. It's a great patch, you guys. If you haven't tried it out yet, a lot of effort and love and care went into this patch. Tons and tons of new toys for you guys to play with. Good job by Blizzard.
All right. So until next week, this is Oddwickdom.
This is Merp. See ya.
See ya.